They told him to fly, and he was already dying. It was October 1918. A small pigeon named Cher stood on the trembling hand of a soldier who knew this was their last chance. Around them, hell had a name, the Argonne Forest, and hell was winning. This isn't just a story about war. This is a story about what happens when everything fails, when everyone gives up, and the only thing left between life and death is a heartbeat with feathers. You think courage is about not feeling fear? No. Courage is flying when your body is begging you to fall. It's choosing the sky when the ground feels safer. Courage is a tiny bird with a message tied to its leg, staring at a horizon painted in gunfire, and choosing to go anyway. Picture this. You're trapped, surrounded, and your own army is killing you because they don't know you're there. You scream, but no one hears. You wave, but no one sees. You send messages, but they never arrive. You are alive, but already forgotten. That was the Lost Battalion. Over 500 American soldiers buried alive in a pocket of forest, encircled by German forces and bombarded by their own artillery. They couldn't advance, couldn't retreat, couldn't even die with dignity. For 5 agonizing days, they held their position. 5 days of hunger, of watching friends bleed out in the mud, of wondering if anyone even remembered they existed. They sent pigeon after pigeon, each one shot down, killed or lost. The Germans knew. They watched the skies and aimed at anything with wings, until there was only one left. Cher. A small gray pigeon, the kind of creature you wouldn't look at twice. But in that moment, he became everything. Pigeon couriers weren't pets. They were weapons, drafted into war because when radios failed, when runners were shot, when every modern system collapsed, these birds had something technology couldn't replicate. Instinct. The homing instinct. A biological compass wired into their brain that always pointed to one place. Home. And in war, home meant headquarters. Home meant hope. Cher had already completed 11 missions successfully. Reliable. Steady. The kind of soldier who didn't need speeches to do his job. But this time was different. This time, the sky itself was raining death. On October 4th, 1918, Major Charles Whittlesey, the commander of the Lost Battalion, wrote a message with shaking hands. He knew that if this didn't get through, everyone under his command would die, not by enemy hands, but by friendly fire. The message read, "We are along the road parallel to 276.4. Our own artillery is dropping a barrage directly on us. For heaven's sake, stop it." 13 words between life and death. He sealed the paper in a capsule, tied it to Cher leg, whispered something no history book ever recorded, and let him go. The fate of 194 men was placed on the wings of a bird that weighed less than a pound. Cher lifted off, and immediately the air exploded. Bullets ripped through the space where his wings had been a second before. The Germans saw him. They fired. He climbed higher, faster, his heart hammering at 600 beats per minute. Then it happened. A bullet tore through his chest. He faltered, dropped, and the soldiers below felt their hearts stop. He's down. It's over. But Cher didn't fall. He hovered, bleeding, struggling, his chest on fire, every instinct screaming at him to stop. But he didn't. He flew again, his wings beating against the weight of a wound that should have killed him. Then another shot. This one took his right leg, almost completely severing it, leaving it hanging by a single tendon. The capsule with the message swung wildly as he fought to stay airborne, blood streaking behind him like a red ribbon in the sky. He should have fallen. Every law of survival said stop, land, give up. But he didn't listen. He flew. For 25 miles. Through gunfire, through pain, through smoke so thick he couldn't see. But home was ahead, and home was all that mattered. Not the pain, not the fear. Just the mission. 65 minutes later, bloodied, broken, and barely alive, Cher didn't just land at headquarters. He crashed. The soldiers who found him thought he was dead, but when they lifted him, his heart was still beating. The message was retrieved, blood-stained but readable. The artillery stopped. The rescue began. The Lost Battalion, 194 men still breathing, was saved. Cher had done the impossible. Medics worked through the night, but they couldn't save his leg. So they carved him a tiny prosthetic, a small wooden leg for a tiny hero. He survived. He was awarded the French Croix de Guerre with Palm, one of the highest military honors. But he didn't understand medals. He didn't understand glory. He only understood one thing: home. And he flew to it, even when flying meant dying. That's the difference between a soldier and a hero. A soldier follows orders. A hero chooses to fly when the order is suicide. After the war, Cher was brought to the United States as a national hero. He became a symbol of courage, proof that size doesn't measure strength, and that wings can be stronger than armor. But his wounds were too deep. Less than a year after his flight, Cher died peacefully. They preserved his body and placed him in the Smithsonian Institution, where he stands today. Small, gray, fragile, with one wooden leg and a hole in his chest. And people walk past him every day without stopping, because he looks like nothing, just another bird. But if you stop, if you look closely, you'll see what we too easily forget. Sometimes the smallest thing in the room is the only reason anyone survived. You don't need to be big to be vital. You don't need to be fearless to be brave. You don't need to be human to be a hero. You just need to fly when everything in you says stop. Cher ami. In French, it means dear friend. The friend who flew through hell so that 194 men could live. The friend who proved that courage doesn't roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet beat of wings against an impossible wind. Sometimes courage is just refusing to fall. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories that deserve to be remembered. We'll see you in the next one.